very soon after we started dating is when she realized her mother seemed to be showing the first signs of Alzheimer's. And what I didn't understand is like, oh, it was a disease that had like no treatment, no cure. It was only going to steadily get worse until she died from it.
Speaking of your wonderful wife.
Yes.
In my very extensive research, I found a series of photos. I found this one.
Yes, that's my wife, Lauren.
Exceptionally beautiful.
She's lovely.
And I found this one.
Yes, that's Lauren and her mother. That's a great photo. Wow, it's like a real photo.
It's a real photo.
Where'd you get this?
Internet.
That's amazing. Yes, this is Lauren and her mother, Adele, who passed
Adele
away
Miller.
a few years ago. Yeah.
You've campaigned exceptionally hard for Alzheimer's following Adele's diagnosis.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that journey?
Yeah, definitely. It's funny. It's like a celebrity, I guess, like, you're kind of asked to do a lot of charity things and find like a cause, I think, and I think there's pressure to find a cause. And I think a lot of people adopt causes that are not organic to them and who they are. And they kind of find themselves, in the midst of a cause. And that had happened to me in the past. I would go to some charity events and I always felt very out of touch with it and didn't really understand it. And then I met my wife, and this is in regards to the charity, but also in regards to just our relationship. I'd never been in a serious relationship ever in my life, really. Like a few months here and there I had dated, but never. And in 2005, I started dating my wife, Lauren, and she was the first serious relationship I ever had. And very soon after we started dating is when she realized her mother seemed to be showing the first signs of Alzheimer's. And I knew nothing about that. It's not in my family. And what I didn't understand is like, oh, it was a disease that had like no treatment, no cure. It was only going to steadily get worse until she died from it, which was truly devastating and put me and my wife on like a pretty intense journey for the next 15 years or so, basically. It really took a lot out of us, and my wife especially. Lauren felt very out of control and very devastated and really scrambling for like a outlet or a way to gain some kind of agency over the situation. Yeah, and our friend suggested we do a comedy show and maybe give the money to like an Alzheimer's charity, and we did, and it went very well. And my wife started telling her story as a young woman whose mother was in her 50s and diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and it was really not a thing like anyone was talking about at all. And she found there was like an enormous need for people to connect with someone who was going through this, because a lot of people were going through it and really no one was talking about it. And we kind of found like a need for this organization that we made, HFC, which became like, an Alzheimer's charity that really was like focused on talking to young people, many of whom were caretakers for their parents with Alzheimer's, and again, it was just a thing. It's a very stigmatized disease and not a disease very many people are comfortable talking about at all. And and Lauren, as her mother progressed more and more, just talked about it more and more. And it really, kind of made our charity more and more prominent in the space. And has allowed us to do kind of more and more things to help people.
You say people don't talk about it enough. And part of that results in people thinking about Alzheimer's as just losing your keys or forgetting a sentence or something.
Yeah.
What is the reality about Alzheimer's as you've observed it?
Well, it's different for everyone, but it's inherently, for my mother-in-law, like, she forgot how to speak, how to go to the bathroom, how to talk, how to eat, how to walk, and was essentially like, someone you would move from the bed to the wheelchair, force feed, essentially, you move back to the bed. She was like that for like 7 years or something like that. I think she didn't, and again, I'm bad with years. She didn't speak for several years. And it was, if you saw her, you wouldn't assume it was dementia or Alzheimer's. You would assume she had some like horrific stroke or something like that. It was not what I understood like cognitive decline could cause, It was far more devastating. And yeah, and I think people don't understand how kind of dire it is, or they do understand and they just, again, don't like talking about it because it's really scary. And people are weird about their brains, mental health, obviously, in America especially. People are very weird about not a thing they like talking about. And so, yeah, it kind of taps into a lot of things people are just scared of in general.
What toll does that have on the people around her, like yourself and your wife?
I mean, it was just devastating for my wife, especially. Like, it was truly one of the most upsetting thing you could imagine is like very slowly seeing your mother die over the course of years and 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 years. You know, it's yeah. I mean, it caused yeah. It was very grim. You know, but through the charity, you know, there was a lot of like kind of hope that came up at times, and a lot of like. You know, kind of like wonderful things that it felt like we were able to do as a result of it. So there was kind of bittersweet moments, but in general, it was terrible.
Has that been one of the hardest times of your last couple of decades for you? That process?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, especially, you know, being married to someone who is going through something incredibly traumatic is you know, it's hard for them and it's hard for you to know how to support them properly and how to, you know, navigate their feelings in a, you know, productive and loving way, you know, and it's obviously much harder for them. You know, it is, but yeah, it can be hard for everybody.
Adele passed away 2020.
Yeah.
What impact does that have on the family?
I mean, in some ways it is, a relief of burden, you know, especially with someone who was so sick for so long with no hope in sight for any way to get better, you know? And also like devastating, you know, and it's something that I'm always not having to remind myself, but something I'm always reminding myself of is like, you know, your wife, her mother died recently. Like there's a lot going along with that. And although there's like this constant thing that we are not dealing with, there is another thing, you know? And again, in many ways, like the active agony of her mother kind of slowly dying was probably worse, but this is also bad in its own way, you know?
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.